everybody. It's Mark Jensen. Thank you so much for tuning in. Oh man, yesterday was fantastic. I caught up with a really good friend of mine, Andrew Bermudez, founder, CEO of Digsy. I've always thought of Digsy as kind of a CRM, but he definitely educated me on the fact that they really are in the lead generation business for commercial real estate brokers. So in continuation of my conversation with Dylan Ferguson, I was super pumped to connect with Andrew because he literally made the jump from commercial real estate into the tech side of commercial real estate, providing opportunities and value. But Digsy has become a fantastic place for free to post your properties and available opportunities, and literally just creates this lead generation system that you can tap into. Andrew's fantastic, super well connected on the tech front, on the entrepreneurial front. We talked about raising capital. We talked about Digsy, what he's doing, what our expectations are, COVID-19. Trying to think if there's anything else in our notes we talked about. I loved his comment, friction creates polish. And as he's kind of crafted their message and what Digsy was looking to accomplish, they've definitely become polished. And I was super impressed and glad to catch up with him. So anyway, grateful for the opportunity to present this to you. Thankful to you for listening and chiming in on this. My name is Mark Jensen. If I could ever be of service to you, my goal is to improve your life. Whether you like it or not, if you come and hang out with me and meet me. So I'm in my makeshift COVID-19 office upstairs. I thought I could at least hit the rim. Anyway, enjoy. So you've been podcasting now for a while. So I did one the joke for me is like, you to me, you're like one of the original LinkedIn commercial real estate OGs, right? Like that's how we originally met, I think. Yeah. Was me connecting with you on LinkedIn,
and Twitter.
Oh, that's right. We were in before Twitter. I mean, that's where that's exactly right.
Yeah.
It was you, me, that Michael dude from San Diego that now works for Little Caesars. Like there was only 15 of us, maybe.
Alan Buchanan was pretty big back then too.
Was he? Yeah. He was doing his Tuesday traffic tips.
He wasn't. I don't think he was doing that at the beginning. No, he wasn't. But you know what? Because he has hundreds of these things, right? I'd be surprised if he doesn't have 100 of them because he does them every Tuesday. So right. I've been saying, dude, if you SEO the hell out of the title of like what you say, you'll be showing up on like Google search results from like investors, brokers, developers. Yeah. I have a friend of mine who just started, he's at CBRE and he does multifamily out here. He's a cool dude, man. You gotta meet him.
And where, by the way, where are you based? I know you're in California.
I'm in Orange County. So I'm in downtown Fullerton. Literally it's like, so it's an hour and 15 minutes to depending on traffic, an hour and a half to like downtown Los Angeles. And then it's about almost an hour and 45 minutes to San Diego.
Okay, cool. You're in a good spot.
We're like 10 minutes, like I can drive down the street for 10 minutes and Disneyland's right there. But now it's a ghost town during the COVID.
Yes, we are during the COVID.
Well, the thing I was going to tell you, the thing I was going to tell you about Dan Blackwell, the multifamily guy out here, is he started doing all these videos too on like multifamily reports, but like they're not putting titles that they SEO that people are searching for. So it's like all this video content's getting buried. Like you go to their channel and you're like, what's the topic? Is there a keyword I'm going to do? So there's a lot of things, but the one important thing is with you, me, Alan, and Matt, who started doing this early, we're doing it. That's everything else is polish.
Yeah. The only thing that I wish I had done, I wish I'd been more consistent. Cause like when I started my podcast, I started my blog, my website, like I was active on Twitter, LinkedIn, like, dude, I swear it's going through like this massive resurgence right now.
Oh, it's crazy. It's like Facebook. Now people are actually using it. I'm surprised at the number of brokers that actually interact on there.
Yeah. It's been bizarre. Like I'm sure it's been great for you. We can kind of talk about that, but, like, I just wish I'd been more consistent. I kind of wish, like Gary Vee talks about like have your one thing, like whether it's your podcast, your blog, and then be consistent on that and then build from there. But dude, as a broker, like I do everything inside my brokerage and I'm a top producer in my firm in Utah and in Colliers in general. And you end up getting in the business. And so then it's like, well, I don't have time for those things. And I don't know, since earlier this year, one of my goals was definitely to be more active in that space. And then I've grown my team. So now I can actually have some time to do some stuff. But dude, it's hard to like produce content, edit it, get it on Instagram, get it on Twitter, get it on LinkedIn, like communicate with all the people that you're communicating with. And I've never, historically, the reason I sort of slowed down is it wasn't directly driving business my way. Like I was like, I was on Duke's top 100 Twitter, top 100 LinkedIn, but it's like, that didn't matter back then. Now it's sort of starting to matter. Like I'm seeing some results. I'm seeing people call, say, hey, do you have anybody for this? Or, this is a deal that I think you should be involved in type thing, or I'd love your feedback. I'm getting more and more of that. So I think that it's less, it's more, it's going to get even better, right? Like the more you can build your brand. I hope I can remain consistent. Originally, when I did my podcast, I did 7 episodes, and it was really like people look at me in my market as a thought leader, and things that were kind of interesting to me. Like at the time it was co-working or it was opportunity zones, any of those types of things that were coming up, I wanted to just learn myself. And rather than have 155 conversations after that, I could just start sending people to those interviews and those links, which became like just super valuable from a time standpoint, but also the value I was providing. So you've been podcasting now for how long?
So we started doing the podcast, actually not too long. Bucky and I talked about it, like I want to say around November. And then we started doing it. But I was doing like any video, or we had been doing a lot of content marketing. So basically, the way that we were generating an audience while we were building Digsy is like, hey, how do we, like, we tried everything, dude. We tried from me talking about my CEO experience.
I remember watching your YouTube videos early on.
Yeah, it was that meh. I was attracting the wrong audience. Like I was attracting entrepreneurs, and then at the same time, like you kind of like figure out, and then you run out of time. That's like what you're going through. Like you're starting it with a very, very limited amount of time. So I actually found a hack for this, by the way. So you're gonna like this.
I need all of the tricks.
So the one thing is that we did, we started saying, okay, well, there's all of this great content in like that the software as a service companies are doing, like sales tools, like outreach and all this stuff. They have webinars, they have like little tricks. Like there's even tools in the SEO world where like there's like how to do something. It's like really like they're plugging like their own like how to use their tool. Like they're actually demonstrating how their tool helps them do this because there hasn't been any other tool. And we go, hey, well, we're just one little tool or like a collection of tools that does things on a platform. So we kind of cut our teeth on that. And I think that's kind of what we learned initially is kind of like, okay, who's my audience? I mean, we're all busy, but at the same time, it's like friction creates polish, right? So you start trying things out, you start looking, okay, are people reaching out to me? Are people not reaching out to me? When it comes to content though, the interesting thing is what you care about is that people are watching. So you create about the audience. That's the one thing. It's not like you're putting an ad on Google saying find commercial real estate apartments for rent here. You know what I mean? And then they click and they convert, right? That's not, it's about being a thought leader. Like, if I was like, say, a principal, and then all of a sudden, like you blogging and becoming an authority figure, and then all of a sudden you're like at the multifamily conference that there's all these ones that you probably attend, and you're speaking, I'm going to be like, I want to speak with that guy because he has visibility. On top of that, he's probably talking to a bunch of stuff. He probably has a bunch of off-market stuff. I need to deploy my cash because I want to be even richer. I'm going to go meet him, or I'm going to reach out to him on LinkedIn. So now you become, it's like an influence, right? Like it doesn't do like, you know, Brad Pitt doesn't make any money any time that somebody recognizes him, right?
Right.
But he makes money because he attracts the audience, and because he attracts the audience, then all of a sudden, like this movie studios want to pay millions of dollars to attract that audience into the theater. So it's kind of like reframing your mind. I had to learn this. So for example, then we kind of learned what worked, and what we learned that worked was like not only like telling the brokers like how to generate leads and how to be smarter with lead generation, lead nurturing, and you know, marketing their listings, like moving listings, finding for the 10 rep brokers like how to like intelligently find people who are going to move without making a single cold call. And this is all like stuff that I learned when I was a broker myself, and I kind of like did hacks like that. But it took a lot of time and energy to kind of like take my mind off of like, okay, I know I do everything. I know I market, generate the newsletter, market to my email list, put the email list tools together, keep up with the CRM. And I had a team of 5, right, at one time. So it becomes really, really hard. But then at the same time, you go, okay, I can't be doing all these things, right? So anyway, I'm kind of stealing the show here, but what I was going to say is that kind of like let me know, and it wasn't about telling them what to do. It was much more of like, hey, here's a little snippet of why it's going to clear your mind on the way that you think about social media, and here is
Yeah.
how you do it with less effort, right? And we plug tools that we're not even associated. We make no dime, like when we plug MailChimp or Persist IQ or anything like that. We don't want the money because we don't want
Yeah.
people to think that like we're pitching them because we're going to make money. It just doesn't make sense to us. But I get calls all the time saying, hey, the content you guys put out is fantastic. So we've got a great team. So most people attribute it to me. No. Vita, who runs marketing, and the rest of the team, they come up with insane ideas. All I do is plagiarize them to make sure that I get
Perfect.
all the content gets into the hands of the commercial real estate industry.
Yeah, and that's awesome. I mean, so walk me through. Did you start Digsy because of, sort of that need for efficiency and technology in the commercial real estate space? But where did you begin?
So it's kind of funny. So when I started in commercial real estate in 1999, I was a self-taught programmer. So in like late high school, like right about I was going to go to college, I had taught myself how to code, and I thought I wanted to go into coding. I thought I wanted to be like a musician. I thought I wanted to be that. But the problem was I didn't have like, I could not approach or have conversations. I was really shy. So, and on top of that, my parents didn't have any money. So I ended up meeting a guy from commercial real estate and explaining this to him. And then he took me under his wing. And then, I just
Cool.
slapped the phones, cold called, did really well. So 3 months after that, I got my license. And I remember my first like commission check. I was like, oh my God, I don't think my parents have seen this much money. And
Wow.
it was a 13,000 square foot deal, at least too.
Yeah. Yeah.
And long story short, what happened was I kept on, like from the beginning, I built my own programs. I started, doing more web technologies. I got busier, called my friends and say, hey, I need to build this thing. I just don't have time. And then we ended up leveraging some existing tools. Like we basically leveraged some of Salesforce, not all of Salesforce. But there were some things to be desired there. And then finally, most of my clients from 1999, on were all technology companies, and
Wow.
every time we'd meet up, I'd pick their brains about their companies, and that they're like, I can't believe you're my real estate guy. Like you sound like a tech guy. And I'm going, well, I have a passion for it. And I'd
Yeah.
tell them that they knew I had taught myself how to code when I was younger. And then I don't code anymore, by the way. I can't even code myself like to save my own life. But um, what happened was in 2012, one of actually various of my clients, and this is back in 2012 when I was doing really well. 2011 actually, because I quit in like February of 2012, somewhere around there. And they said, look, man, you're not married, you don't have kids, you're about to be 30 years old, you have a pile of cash saved up in the bank from what you've told us. Like my only expense was my car was paid off, right? And then I had just gotten a new car, so after that conversation, but it was just like nothing, and I had money saved up. So I'm like, hey, I'm going to go start something in commercial real estate. And I had a few ideas, but unfortunately I failed. And and I learned really quick about so like the first year and a half, like we tried a couple things, didn't work. And then I ended up meeting with some of the initial LoopNet guys, and they told me kind of like what the plan was with CoStar after they had gotten acquired. And it was
Yeah.
pretty well written on the wall that there was going to be a paywall. So expensive, free listings were going to go away. Where now for
Yep.
brokers to reach like the direct consumer, so like the principal or the buyer from an owner user standpoint, or a tenant, was going to become difficult. So we started
Yeah.
basically building, betting on that. We started building the new B2C platform, so like a business to consumer platform, which is basically, broker, commercial real estate professional, or owner directly attract tenants and buyers and principals from a consumer standpoint. So 98% of the people who use our site on the consumption side, meaning I'm looking for listings, it's not
Yeah.
brokers, it's actually tenants and buyers. The brokers that use us are like boutique people or people, resi-mercial, for example, people who don't want to
Yep.
pay the CoStar or anybody's fees. It's not only CoStar, but dude, if you want robust professional tools, like you're going to pay professional prices. So I don't blame them.
So what was sort of the first iteration? I mean, did you find like, cause I've always known you as like the CRM when you and I connected years ago, like I really enjoyed it. Cause one, I have a database that I've kept for 17 years. And I've joked so many times, it's going to be better just to start over. So when you and I connected, I remember uploading like 400 contacts. It's like, okay, I'm just going to focus on these 400. It was super beneficial for me. But did it start as a CRM, or what was kind of the core start?
It started off as a listing service, so a lead generation platform, so a marketplace where brokers could expose their properties directly to tenants and buyers. Problem was, when we first started, it was kind of like a beta thing. Even though we didn't say beta, it was much more, okay, look, why would a brokerage or a landlord pay for Digsy when they're already paying for LoopNet and other tools, right? Or other competitors that are already working. The prices weren't high enough to justify just focusing on that. And then we had actually developed Digsy AI for us to reach out to brokers and stuff like that. And then we had shown it to brokers, and they're like, hey, can we buy that? And we said, look, our strategy is like not only to be a marketplace, but it's also to provide the platform. And by a platform, it means we're a lead generation platform. So we give you a marketplace that SEOs really, really well. So when a tenant or a buyer or principal is looking for commercial real estate, we show up on the first page of Google. They can see that we have more listings than our competitors because we're 100% free to list unlimited properties. And then when they do that, then we can give them additional tools like lead capture widgets. For example, your website, if you want to display all your companies or all your listings on your website, we give you this thing. And for some of those things we charge.
Oh, cool.
And it's a reasonable thing. Like if somebody's viewing your listing on a competing website, they can basically, when they click on the link to the brochure, a little thing will pop up on the brochure that says, hey, if this apartment complex doesn't work, let me know what you're looking for. And they can fill out a form, and then you capture the lead. So you're leveraging things. So we're more like, imagine it's really along the words of being a true platform. I love it when people say Dropbox is a platform. No, Dropbox is a folder on my computer. A platform means that everything's built on top of it. You are not Mac OS 10. You are not Windows, right? That's a platform. So what we try to do is really go on that. So we have the SEO. You can list your properties and reach the direct tenant and buyers. There's many benefits, as you know. Most people would rather dual end a deal, whether it's a broker or a landlord, because they make more money, right? So there's no outside expense. And at the same time, a lot of those tenants can find what they want. And then we also have services where some of those tenants and buyers who ask for help, we'll basically route them to our premium subscribers that do tenant rep. So that's the way. But the thing is, so like lead capture tools, being able to send, we give you a link that basically you can create an automation in whatever tool you want that keeps in touch with your network or your existing prospects or your past clients and say, hey, here's this month's listings or these quarters new listings, etc. In markets where we don't have all the listings yet, a lot of brokers, what they do is they grab that link and they modify it a little bit so that basically they make the selection so it only shows their property. So like their assistant or themselves, they basically enter all their listings, so now they can show people their listings. And the neat thing about it is, even if they don't inquire on a property, they do that. And if markets where we have a lot of listings, you can toggle the selection so that way you can say, hey, show somebody all the listings in the market. And if they inquire on a property, you get notified. So it's, you know, we haven't had like a true MLS in commercial real estate, so we're going more along those lines doing that. And one thing that's important is we believe that in order for everybody to innovate, and I don't want this to be a commercial with Digsy, but I tell everybody, and any platform out there who's collecting listings, every broker is already cautious about giving people their information because they've seen what the marketplace does with that. Not only does it create a problem, you know, for them where they're being resold their data, but it actually stifles innovation. So if you, I mean, if you always care about, you know, your wife not leaving, you're going to treat that lady very well, right? But if you don't care and you start taking it for granted, you'll be the same person that you were all along, and there's very little motivation for that person to stay. So we believe that by telling our customers, it's even in our terms of service, your data is yours. We have a non-exclusive right to it. You can grab it and leave and go anywhere you want. But we want to innovate, which is why we have lead capture tools, things that help you convert things better, because we believe in the spirit that, hey, if we need to have competition, and we also need to be able to have a true partnership with our customers. As long as we crank out things that are yielding value, we'll get paid. If we don't, it all works out. Somebody else will come in that does it. But I think it keeps us on our toes, which is exactly where every human being needs to be. You're not making the same amount of money when you started off as an associate. you're making a lot more, right? But it's that ramp, and your clients do business with you, not because you're a Collier. They do business with Mark Jensen. Why? Because they know that he will always outperform and get better and better and better. But you have to work at keeping the business, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
That's the main thing, is that keeps us honest. You have to work at keeping the business and innovate.
Well, I mean, that's one of the reasons back on podcasting is like, you know, a couple of things have come out of the COVID crisis that have me just super pumped. I mean, people are innovating, you know, it's like people have lost their jobs and starting new companies. I mean, the phone conversations I've had in the last couple of weeks have been epic, but we've also been looking at our own teams, you know, functions and systems. And in fact, my podcast, I just had a guy named Dylan Ferguson on, who's a friend of mine. He actually works in the tech space, and for years he's worked in, you know, Salesforce implementation companies. He worked at Workday for a while, which is kind of a back end version. But
oh yeah, I know Workday.
Yeah, but I can't think of the company. He's going to kill me where he works right now. But anyway, he's talking tech with me, you know, which was one of the reasons I was so excited to get on the phone with you. Is it's like merging tech with commercial real estate. You know, I consider myself one of the most forward-thinking, you know, brokers in our market, at least in technology implementation and use.
You are. No, you definitely.
But I
are.
still use I use Slack. I use Asana. I'm on RealNext, not a plug, because I'm honestly, I hate them. That's another reason why I'm on the phone with you right now, or having you on. But from a CRM standpoint, it's like everybody sort of I feel like they've stalled out and there's so much opportunity there. But I look at all of my systems, and it's like, holy crap, I'm going to take this COVID-19 period of time and we're going to get rid of everything and we're going to condense. My MailChimp account, for example, I was paying for the last 5 years, I've been paying $268 a month.
Wow, so that's a lot.
I know, but it's because I had all these separate lists, and they treat, even though all the emails were the same. This is like my tip of the week for people like me that haven't had a chance to clean house because we've been closing deals. Anyway, we called them and they went through all of my lists and realized that every one of those were duplications. You know, like if you had called on a 12plex 17 years ago, I had you in my multifamily distribution list. Anyway, so we combined all those, and now my bill is $48 a month. I'm thinking, why didn't I do this? You know,
you'd freak out how much our MailChimp bill is.
I would imagine
it's pretty up there.
So who would you consider so anyway, I just wanted to make the point, like right now I'm loving the innovation. I'm loving the fact that so many people are coming together and collaborating just like this. I want to continue to be a part of that as best I can. Who would you consider because I'm doing this too in my business right now. Moving forward, I want to be really intentional about who I work with. And you guys have had to do that in your business. Who would you consider your client? Is it brokers? Is it street-facing access to tenants and buyers?
It's tough. It's a very tough question. But let me just go back. So Digsy, the software tool that we provide for Digsy, many people consider it to be a CRM. We're not a full-fledged CRM. So I'll advise you right now, if you want to be a full-fledged CRM, you don't use that. All of the tools that we provide are around, helping you generate direct tenant buyer leads by putting your property in our marketplace, which shows up on the first page of Google in the markets we're in. Then at the same time, if you want to do outbound outreach, we have the prospecting tool. So it's more of a prospecting CRM, but it's a lead generation CRM. So it's not even a CRM really. It's much more of like a prospecting, or most people will call it marketing automation or sales enablement. It's much more, you want to email, 13 people or 100 people or 300 people and see all your past communication and click to dial them and then move them into a different bucket and mark a follow for all of them. That's what we do. And that's what we're very, very good at. If you need all the bells and whistles of a RealNext, et cetera, we are not the place. We help you generate the leads efficiently so that way when you generate a client, then you can move it to a proper CRM. So we're all around lead generation. We can only focus on doing one thing well, and that is helping you guys and anybody in the commercial real estate industry provide you services and tools in the marketplace to be able to generate more leads out of what you're already doing. So that's one thing. As far as my client, it's really hard. So who is the client for Uber, right? Is it the passenger or is it the driver?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So here's the one thing. So remember I was telling you that when we first started doing the webinars and the videos, like they were very targeted towards like entrepreneurs, and it just wasn't working for us. Yeah. It was a really big wake-up call. So we made a lot of mistakes. I think where we should have focused our time and energy, who our real customer is the person who actually pays you money. And that's not all the time, because on Uber, for example, it's the passenger who pays you, the rider who pays you the money. But really, they don't pay you money unless you get more drivers, you treat them well, which questionable across all, different ride-sharing companies, how the 1099 people feel, or the drivers. But then you kind of have to make a distinction, like what's actually going to move things. And it's really tough, because when you make a decision on who you market to, you don't see Uber marketing to the passenger. That's already worked. People talk, as long as their name's on PR, et cetera. But most of their efforts are around getting drivers, because more cars on the roads means more distribution. Somebody has to wait less. They prefer the Uber platform, and then they basically can win the market. So it's all around supply, really. We found the same thing out, is that the people who we market to, the most and deal with is actually, commercial real estate professionals. And that's why we've designed tools and services where, one, we get your listings to show up on the first page of Google by posting your listings for free. So anybody who has commercial real estate listings, you can post all your listings for free on Digsy and reach an audience. Two,
Nice.
if somebody needs more leads, we have, they can inquire on our pro plan, just message us. And then we have, any things that increase the number of leads between 3x and 6x, simply because we have all the data and we've developed systems that are proprietary that allow us to get the properties out there more. And on top of that, they get all the tools without the Digsy branding. Some people don't want to have the Digsy thing on their website or in their communications. And it's affordable. We only charge $100 a month for unlimited listings on the premium. So it's a no-brainer for people.
Yeah, that's
but
cool.
we never push our, actually, whenever somebody wants to pay us $1, we go, try the free service first. And the reason why that we tell them to try the free service first is simply because I think that most people are impressed when they start using us, and also when they start learning about the tools. It takes a little bit of time. Start free, because then you got that, then you start learning about the tools and all the content we have that teaches people how to generate more transactions, more principles to work with, et cetera. Neat little hacks but here's a long-winded answer, but our customer really is actually the brokers, because if we help, everything's around helping you guys not only generate more leads, but convert them better. I'll give you an example. Our premium members, right? Somebody visits, let's say, your apartment complex, right? Or one of your multifamily listings. On average, this is even, one of my friends was a CEO, and one of my mentors was a CEO and chairman of Realtor.com, right? And then some of our investors and good friends were at LoopNet from day one, or they were there and they were some of the people that took it public. On average, every time that somebody views a listing, for you to generate a lead, how many people have to view that listing before you generate a lead?
No idea.
100.
Wow.
So you only have a 1.5% conversion. So that's really tough. However, when somebody visits your listing, and then if we have a little pop-up with your face on it, or when they click, we notify you that, hey, somebody's clicked on your brochure and all this stuff, and we give you the contact info, that makes sure that you're upgraded, because now you're generating a lot more value. So they're things like that. We're much more focused as if your listings were our listings and we have to generate more leads. We're constantly optimizing. And that's what people pay us for the innovation, really, for the optimization to convert leads. And that's pretty
awesome.
much it. So we're very, very focused on the commercial real estate professional and owner.
So, that's interesting, because I have a really good friend of mine, Brody Saunders. He's the founder of a company called Ideal Estate. And his whole thesis was that Zillow and Trulia are basically trying to get rid of the real estate agent, but yet they need the real estate agent's listings in order to bring traffic to their sites. And
it's not going to happen. So one, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, he's found incredible success basically saying, the broker is my client. Let's build some residential tools around that. But in your world, I love talking about tech stuff. And that's what Dylan and I were talking about, is is tech going to get rid of commercial real estate agents? It's like, bring it on. I think you should try it. It's not going to work, because, I just know what we do, and so many deals wouldn't happen if we weren't in the middle of them. So I love hearing that you're broker friendly and building tools around that.
Yeah. I'll tell you why the broker will not go away. maybe for smaller deals, I can definitely see that becoming more
Yeah.
transparent and then doing that simply because it doesn't make sense. I mean, if you look at even brokers that have these, multi 100,000 square foot, million square foot assets from even Blackstone, um, they make their money on like the larger floor plates, and then they got to split that like 3, 4, 5 ways, and they end up with the same
Yeah.
net commission that they would have if they if they rep one tenant for 5,000 feet, right?
Yep.
Now, does it make sense for you to go out, tour the building, go look at this, go take photography for these small spaces? The economics don't make sense because the broker's only making,
Yeah.
let's say that they dual end both sides and they actually make 5%.
Right.
Who's pocketing 95% of the entire value of the deal? It's a landlord, right? It makes more sense for the landlord, but it doesn't make sense to have an intermediary there because there's so much little money that and keep in mind, you go tour the building, that's not a done deal. Maybe, 1 or 2 out of 10 tours turn into a deal. And there's the cost of time. The economics don't make sense for smaller deals, and even it could be a small deal that signs at least for like 30 years and you might get paid a big commission, but you got to look at, the economics behind that. And that's why smaller spaces get neglected. It's simple economics when you look at it.
Sure.
There's no return. Now, if I'm Mark Jensen, I'm selling a building for freaking $19 million, right? A multifamily asset. I can afford drone videos. I can afford 3D tours. I can afford to make a website. I can do all these things. Because why?
Yeah.
Because most likely I'm going to bring a buyer. I already know my network and I just got to get it out there. Most of the time you guys sell things off market. That even speaks higher volumes about the quality of the broker. The broker doesn't even need to put it on the market to sell it. Right?
Yeah.
But I can definitely see the broker getting wiped out on the smaller transaction. But guess what? They're already absent. There's nothing new under the sun. They don't want to play there anyway because they got to put their kids to school. You think somebody to make $1,500 net commission is going to bust their ass? And you know what? And then the landlords are complaining that the brokers aren't doing that. Well, then you should give us 10, 20, 30% of what you make.
Yeah.
But they're not going to do that. So it all works out. So we get wiped out from smaller transactions. Phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because like I cut my teeth driving around. I mean, people ask me all the time, like, how did you get started? It's like, first of all, no one teaches you how to make money in this business. So the fact you guys provide tools is incredible. But two, like I literally drove around and was like, well, that building's an empty space. And so I'd go back to my computer and I'd look up ownership and I'd call them and say, hi, my name is Mark. I didn't even know what leasing was really. It was like, can I help you solve a problem? And they were like, well, yeah, if you find a tenant, we'd be happy to pay you. It's like, okay, here's a piece of paper, you sign it. And, then I'd bust my ass to fill this 500,000, 1,500 square foot space. And I'd get a check for a couple $100. It was like, woohoo.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's as you progress in your career, you certainly don't want to go back to that. So here's something I wanted to ask.
But hold on, let me keep that thought on that question because I want to ask you a question that I think is relevant. Do you think if you, when you've moved off-market properties, which is most of the time, I presume simply because of the type of property types and transaction type you work on, should you be paid more commission in selling the building right away, or the longest it goes, it should go down to 5%? Like, doesn't it seem more fair that, Mark, if you sell my property in 30 days, you get 8%. But then it starts going down and it bottoms out at 5%. There's all this motivation. Like, you got to align interest, right? Because it just depends whether the property's cash flowing or not. There's a lot of complexity when it comes to commercial real estate. But we're just not smart about these things in commercial real estate.
Well, it's interesting you say that because my question for you is like, here's something that really has resonated with me the last couple of months. We'll say 2 months because I've been home since March 4th. The last couple of years, here's how my phone calls go. Like, hey, so-and-so, it's Mark. How's it going? How's your portfolio? What are you doing? They're like, we're doing fine. It's like, well, anything you want to sell? It's like, no, Mark. And by the way, we talked to Mark Zamilichap, CB Richard Ellis, JLL, my cousin Steve. The last couple of years, you literally could sell your property on Craigslist. Like, I exist in the deals I did because I brought them the reason why to sell, or I was strategic, or was a relationship. But now, the last 60 days, here's how my phone calls go. Like, hey, so-and-so, it's Mark Jensen. Mark, what's up? What are you seeing? It's like, boom. I'm that broker that's going to bring value right now because I'm not in it for the paycheck. I'm in it because I love what I do and I care about my clients. But in your position at Digsy, like, you guys have to be excited because I
I think I've probably said at least once a week for 5 years, I know you could sell your property on Craigslist, but
Yeah.
but now is when it's actually the marketing is going to be more important, because especially for vacant space, right? I mean, if I was I've told my industrial and my office leasing teams, like, I am jealous because there's not going to be that much seismic shift in multifamily. We went from 100 people paying rent to 98 people paying rent.
Wait,
Like,
don't jinx yourself, because we haven't seen the numbers for May. We have not seen
guess
the
what? I have. We're at 91% already in the Wasatch Front. So,
dude, you got to send me this recording. Can I grab this clip and put it out there and give you a big shout out?
you can do whatever you want, bro. I'll send you everything. But by the way, tomorrow we're having a webinar, and I'm having Next Management on, because they, in my opinion, technology. Oh my gosh, this blew my mind. I'm sitting there in a pitch with this guy, and he's like telling me about his management company, and I was telling him some of the hurdles we've had, and because here's something I've done really well in my career, and you've seen this, and where you tie into young brokers. I help people get what they want, right? That's why I'm successful. And I've helped a lot of young developers and a lot of young investors explode, because I know what they're good at. And I'm really good at replication. So anyway, I'm sitting there with him, and I'm telling him like this issue that I had on this one project with this one management company. And he's like, well, that's weird, because he pulls up his iPad and pulls up a live dashboard of all of the properties that they manage. And it was like, it was, what Domo is, right? Like, Domo is a Utah-based company.
Oh, no, I know them very well. I wish they were doing better in the markets, but they're amazing. Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
They're definitely going to get acquired.
But in theory, it's like, people told me years ago when Domo was started, they were like, oh, Domo's not going to make it. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, as a business person, visualization of data is a grown man's pornography. It's holy cow. Dude, I make decisions off of color charts. I'm like a kindergartner, like, it's crazy.
Okay, hold on. Visualization of data is a grown man's pornography. Hold on. So true. And Mark Jensen. And we're doing this on Cinco de Mayo, 5/5/2020. Dude, you are going to be definitely, that is actually the best quote I've heard. I collect little quotes, by the way, from wherever I hear them, either from you or different things. And we always put these quotes on Digsy that are like super like eye-opening.
Yes.
Like, visualization of data as a grown man's pornography is fantastic.
Here's one.
Oh yeah, I saw that one. I saw that one. Yeah.
My client, one of my biggest clients, he was a restaurateur here in Utah, 5 years ago, buys a hotel in Puerto Vallarta. He's been redoing the thing. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. But he sent me that. Like, I'm in Mexico, in hospitality, on shutdown, on Cinco de Mayo. Anyway. But here's the thing. What's better than visualized data? Real time. Like, your manager just signed a new lease. Boom. That property went from 44 occupied to 45 out of 50. It's just like, from a management tool standpoint. So
no, it's great. It's great though. Like, the one thing is, I think here's the one thing that I learned, me being a technologist as well, is like, I don't know about you, but I think my younger self got infatuated. Like, it just seems so sexy to do the whole data and real time stuff, or not data and real time stuff, like just technology in general. And what I understood from brokers and stuff is they have so many jobs, and so do commercial real estate professionals. Like, property managers, they have no time. Brokers have no freaking time.
Yeah. Right.
So it's like you're dealing with like this you're screaming for attention in the scarcest prospect you have. And what you're doing, which is really interesting, is you're basically helping them get what they want, which is literally, I don't know if this is true, but I remember reading, I forgot what book it was. I doubt I'll remember, but the way that Lyndon B. Johnson in politics got ahead was that he would always do a favor for other people first. It was an evil strategy. He didn't do it so you owed him, but you owed him. And then, like, the thing is, he just wanted to be in good grace. It's like, I don't know how many multifamily guys do that, but if I was a multifamily guy and I wanted to break into an account and I saw what they were doing, and maybe I saw in a previous OM, right, that what their expenses were going, or maybe the new buyer, I'd be going in there. I'm like, hey, by the way, I looked at this deal. I just want to put you in touch with these this maintenance company and this solar panel stuff. This is what we were planning to do with the building, but now that you own it, here you go. If you guys ever need anything else, and do that, and then do it again like next month or next quarter, just go, hey, by the way, there's this program, do this. And guess what? You do enough of those things and you go, where the F is my broker? Like, is he just collecting a commission? Like, this guy brings value. It's all about treating people well. Like, just remember, like the teachers that we loved in elementary school, which ones do we remember? Do we remember the mean ones, or do we remember the ones that were really sweet to us?
Yep.
You probably, if you remember them around Christmas, you probably spend some money and ship them a gift, right?
Yeah.
And the biggest gift they can give you is a commission.
Yep. No, I mean, that's not to give away my secret sauce, but I tell young brokers all the time when they call and say, hey, what's the key to success? It's like, well, first of all, if you're in it for the money, I'll crush you. And so that's interesting. Right now, I had a conversation yesterday with a young broker out of Texas, and he's calling saying like, oh, I'm so scared. And I was like, what are you scared for? I was like, I'm jealous of you. And he's like, why? I was like, because this is the all-time equalizer. It's like, if you have this in Southern California, but if you haven't raked your lawn and your neighbor's lawn looks amazing and it snows, guess what? No one cares. They don't know that you didn't rake your lawn. Like, the market has tanked for everyone equally, and everything I've been doing the last 10 years of my business no longer matters. We are all now on the same plane. And young people have time and they have hustle and energy. I'm the dad of 3 daughters first of all, the first 3 weeks I was solving problems for myself and my clients. Right. And then the next 3 weeks was like trying to figure out what that actually means. And now we're trying to figure out how to move forward. That's like 90 days of a young broker who could have been like, man, I wonder if that guy on that land piece would now finally sell. Hey, will you sell? Like, I haven't had time to do that. So anyway, young people out there, like, you have all the opportunity right now, and we are equals because you pick up the phone and you add value to somebody right now. That's what gets remembered. One of my biggest clients, I knew that he had bought 3 deals in Utah. So this is 2006, but he was buying pieces of shit, in my opinion, which my daughters think I only sell crappy buildings. But he was buying just like 70s, 60s, 70s product. Not that we have ghettos in Utah, but it was just tough stuff. And I didn't really understand it, but I knew that there was a listing coming up on the east side. So here's my first conversation. His name's Peter. I was like, hey, Peter, Mark Jensen. I worked at the time, I was at Cushman Wakefield. I said, Mark Jensen at Cushman Wakefield. He's like, what do you want? And I was like, well, you've been buying, this is me like a young broker. I was like, you've been buying pieces of shit on the west side. Can I sell you a piece of shit on the east side? And he laughed so hard. It was the best 5-minute call I've ever had. And we bought that deal. It was 83 units. So and that just set the pace for my career. It was like, what can I do? I'm going to make you successful anyway, right? Like, the reason the reason my podcast is called Everybody Wins is you come in contact with me, your life will improve. It's my nature.
Awesome. Yeah.
I'm not in it for the money. Money comes if you're successful. But I mean, every one of my stories starts with that. Young brokers, when they call and say, what should I do to create more business? I say, call and say hello.
Yeah. I think most people think that it's like, they say dial for dollars, and they think like when you dial, you're going to get $1 right away. But like when you get, I'm not so analytical. I'm a lot more binary than things. And I just look at systems. That's the way my mind works. Is I look, why does a solar system, why do planets float? And I love quantum physics and physics, even though I would never, I never knew that until I got older, by the way. I didn't even like physics or quantum physics until I turned 32. And then I just been absorbing everything. So you're going to like see how the planes work and you go, oh, okay, that makes sense. And then you start applying these to like different things like relationships. It's a relationship business. Most people dial for dollars, which is great. If you look at a system, the most inefficient, you need a lot of inefficiency for somebody to be able to kind of carry the torch and win, and then carry the torch even further to kind of draw and create, like proliferate the new generation of like better thinkers, etc. Like you with the 3 Jensen girls, right? Especially jumping in the trampoline while you're sitting there with that big thing on that social media. You should probably put it in the show notes. That was a great picture, by the way.
The one where I've got
like the leaf blower or whatever it was.
The leaf blower in my face.
Dude, that was epic.
Our head of marketing for Colliers in Phoenix was like throwing up. She's like, I can't believe you put that on LinkedIn.
It's so awesome.
You know what? I'm tired of hiding. If there's one thing that I want to tell that I've learned mean, it's taken me a long time to be confident in my own hair and skin, if you will.
Yeah.
But dude, if I could have just been myself 15 years ago, I'd have been so much further along. Like I tried to be everybody else for so long. That's just a personal
Me too. Me too.
nugget,
It's kind of funny. Look at our company, right? Like we have great investors. The board member of Zillow is one of our personal investors in our company too, along with like some angels. Like the former CEO of Apple, the guy who bought Next Computer and brought Steve Jobs, is one of our investors and my mentor. Like we're so lucky. And
dude, that's epic.
but the one thing is, look, I couldn't have gotten those guys in a suit.
Yeah.
Actually, I remember when I was raising money, one of the VCs said, "Hey, mainly the reason you turned you down is because you look like a Southern California like salesman. We next time show up." They turned us down. They said next time show up with a hoodie. Can you give me 1 second? 1 sec.
Yeah. I'll even pause. So you show up in a hoodie. So what were you wearing before? Because like I'm known to dress up, but I dress up because I look young. I think I'm going to change coming out of COVID. I'll be honest. Like I'm in shorts and boat shoes and whatever.
Yeah,
my attitude's changed.
So it was just typical broker: dress shirt, tie, belt, slacks, like the shoes that we usually like, nice shoes, like polished black shoes. That, and it just kind of drew some people away. And it took me a while. Then I started like wearing like a V-neck sweater on top of that stuff, and it seemed a little professional. Now we talk to even like big real estate companies on like even Zoom or in person. Like maybe in person, like I have a t-shirt on, but maybe I wear a V-neck, but I just got jeans and like tennis shoes. And I'm not bragging. And the thing is, I think that what I've noticed in like, we were talking about this before the podcast, right? Like you don't drink, but I was saying like, you know what? Why pretend that we're not having a good time in Cinco de Mayo? I'll just bring a beer, right? Like,
amen.
That's what that is our audience at Digsy, all the commercial real estate professionals. What are they doing right now in Cinco de Mayo? With the exception of you.
Yeah. And my partner, Raleigh. No,
there you go.
They're enjoying Cinco de Mayo. Porque yo hablo español. ¿Ah?
Yo también hablo español.
Sí, bien.
Yeah. I was born and raised in Ecuador.
We can do the second half. Oh, no way.
Yeah, I was born and raised in Ecuador.
Qué bueno, amigo. Ecuador es muy bonita.
Oh, look, you're really good at this.
Yeah, dude. Everybody in Utah speaks multiple languages. I didn't even serve a mission. I just learned Spanish in school. I loved the whole immersion thing. Like my girls speak French. Like little blonde girls going around like bonjour, je ne parle pas français. It's like
that's really cool. My wife loves French everything, French food, French the language. I for some reason I've always had affinity to like Italian languages. I think I think it might be because my grandmother was Italian, but my great grandmother. But it's pretty funny. But I want to kind of like add a little bit of value to you if that's okay, because I think you're right. I'd
love it.
I think it's like adding value. If I was to go back in time, what would I have done? I would have basically, I know you got to cut your teeth, do a few deals to learn. You can do that by partnering up with a listing team that gets a lot of inbound leads, get really good about meeting with them and then convert them into deals rather than cold calling. Like it's really, that's the way I started is off as a tenant rep. Really, really hard to cut your teeth very quickly with tenant rep because you don't have inbound leads from sign calls. The other thing too, that was rough is, kind of like learning how to really calculate the ROI on your time, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay, what's the likelihood that buildings will sell around this time? And kind of like thinking about that. But I guess it just comes with experience, I don't think that you can go back in time and wish. I don't think anybody really starts that way except you, because you were kind of like thinking outside the box to begin with. So there's a few individuals that come pre-packaged with things, which is very unique, which is kudos to you. But the one thing that was very difficult to me, and we were talking about, restarting the podcast, was how do I do this? I'm the CEO. I had just got fundraising, or I was about to fundraise. Yeah. So I was we restarted the podcast around November, right? And we were about to start fundraising. We were planning for January. That usually takes about a month, talking to the investors and everybody else that we're doing. And we were thinking like, okay, how do we do this? Like, we already know that the content for the brokers, we had to, like, I personally, what I do most of my days, it's crazy. most of my days I just sit in front of, I used to sit in front of, just a notes app. It can be Apple Notes or it can be Evernote. I'm using a tool called Notion these days. And I just write out my thoughts and I go, okay, what are 3 goals like that have to be done? A lot of times we think about like 3 goals and there are the things we want to do, right? But want to do is different than have to do, and the things that will actually get me to reach a majority of my goals, whether it's, if it's 40% of my goals and something else is like 20% of my goals, then I know which one I have to go after, the one with a 40, right? The higher number. So I spend so much time doing this, right? Like for example, going, okay, what's your priority? Listing acquisition, generating revenue. And then you go, okay, well, listing acquisition leads to revenue, but at the same time, I deal with so many departments. I deal with, the CEO stuff, talking to the investors, keeping the investors updated, hiring, and on top of that, working with product and development, see what's in the pipe, coming up with things, working with marketing, then working with the sales and customer service teams and all that stuff. So my day's like already packed. But then what I realized is like, hey, we can't be just like putting a podcast together for, like, there's so many channels, right? So we're talking about, Mark, you do Twitter, you do LinkedIn. I'm not sure if you do Instagram because I'm not following you there.
I do. Mostly personal stuff, not a lot of business posts, but yeah.
Perfect. So you do Instagram, but you don't do it for business. Then we have, what else do we have? Did we already say LinkedIn?
Yeah. So Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and I do business on Instagram, but most of my like stories are just me.
And YouTube, right?
But I mean, kind of, not really. I'm going to start, like, I'll post, not the podcast I've been doing. I'll post my first one today. But it'll just be kind of these posts, right? But yeah,
so you got that
TikTok.
No, I don't do TikTok. I don't think that's the right audience. I mean, unless you've got millionaire teen, like elementary school people with like money that they can actually legally disperse into apartments. Bucky Beeman loves TikTok. He's on everything. Like him and I differ in that sense because Bucky goes and he has fun doing it, man. I need to like look at where the ROI is, where the audience is, and then go after it. And he does the same thing, but he just loves this stuff. So like he's gonna try everything. Something new comes out, he's gonna try it, and dude, if it pops, I'm just gonna steal it from him because that's what I do. It's like that's why he's telling me in the first place. Hey, you should check this out. I'm like, hey, thanks, Bucky. Thanks for being my trial and thanks for being my trial and error buddy. He's awesome, dude. I love him.
That's cool.
But the one thing is you got those channels, right? We're not including email marketing. We're not talking about your newsletter. We're not talking about your any other marketing channels. We're not talking about Google Ads. We're not talking about your website, which you need to market. Right. So how do you deal with all these things? So that was a big problem for me. And you know what I realized is once you know what the content is and what's the easiest way to do it, I found that the video is fantastic because you and I do this thing. Next thing you know, I have this quote that, visualized data is pornography for a grown man. That's fantastic. So you just fill that one into one. I just get it to marketing and they push it out. But there's little tidbits in this thing that little tidbits can be turned into a blog post. But the video and the interaction, and we don't even have to have an audience a lot of times. We do the podcast. Sometimes like I'll be sitting here like on the weekends. I get pretty bored. So what I'll do is I'll just pre-plan a lot of stuff. Sometimes I'll just come in and just like record a video and then send it to our team to help us out. But then, next thing you know, you have like something on like how to find leads on Twitter or like how to find, this or that, how to collect email addresses. But it's all coming off of this. So like the podcast itself, I'm able to record it. Then I can actually I go, hey, go to minute 12, get a virtual assistant, which by the way, if you ever need people, we've hired so many virtual assistants throughout the years that I can like tell you exactly like how to like get them to apply without you paying them and doing trial and error. And you pick the best one. You go, hey, from minute 1 or let's say minute 23 to 25, I talk about the fact that here's what I would do as a young broker to make more money. And I want you to write a blog post. And they listen to that part and then they write a blog post and they just review it. and have that. So you don't have to do any of the work yourself. And then you can just basically, I understood that if I'm going to be doing anything, it's going to be across video, because with the video, people can just write the blog post. Our marketing team can do it. We still outsource some stuff to our VA team too. And then what we can also do is we can grab little snippets of it and break up this thing. Like, think about all the things we talked about, right? We talked about your CRM. We talked about, what you were doing earlier. We talked about the technology stuff. You can take those little snippets and then turn them into a mini video and send them out. And you want to know what the killer thing about this is?
What?
Let's say, for example, you've been talking to a principal who hasn't worked with you yet, but who you get along with, and hey, we're doing this thing to teach other investors how to invest in commercial real estate. We're going to do a topic around, the one time that you learned one thing that completely changed the equation on how to find like valued opportunities, and you focus it on that. Now you have a deeper relationship with that person. You record them and then you market it. You can make it valuable for them to like share it with you tell them you're going to share it with all the brokers so that they get to know them, so they'll submit more deals. Big value to him or her, right?
Yep.
Well, then you're going to grab that same video. You're going to send it to all the people who aren't as successful. And then they're going to call you and you go, hey, Mark, how do we do this? And you're going to be like, X, Y, and Z, here we go. Let's meet up at here. You show up with your, t-shirt and jeans or whatever you want to do. And there you go. Well, and Utah's kind of hard in the winter, but summertime's coming up. So.
No, so one of the reasons I enjoy the podcast, like, I don't know what my goal is or my vision is. I don't know if I can continue to do it. But the one thing one of the reasons I've gotten to where I am on the business side is simply I didn't go away. Like some guys that may or may not click with me like 10 years ago now, they're like, okay, we should probably hang out because I recognize that you're in this space and you're not going anywhere and you're doing lots of deals. But I want to find my tribe. Like I reached out to you because I consider you part of my tribe. Like we comment on each other's social media posts and
same.
And I love that.
consider,
and I want to grow that too. I want to help you grow your network. I want to learn more about Digsy. I wanted to build a deep relationship with you. And to me, that's the difference moving forward is I want to be really intentional about who I hang out with, what I'm trying to learn, how do I innovate, how do I grow. But I also know that there's not a person that I guess it took me a while to realize that I've added value. I've done so many things for so many people that it's coming back. There isn't anybody I can't help. And that's the weirdest thing to say. But next time you're on an equity raise, like I know all of the VCs in Utah, right? Like Silicon Slopes, it's like we can, anyway, I'm just enjoying these types of conversations in a heavy, heavy way I didn't anticipate. So,
well, let me, I appreciate that, by the way. Let me give you two really big hacks that I did after learning that, we can get all of these different things accomplished with one, and we just focus on the podcast. What's funny is that it's not a podcast, it's a vlog, like a video blog.
Yep.
And then it gets turned into a podcast. So basically we grab the audio from this, then we put it, because the audio from a conversation is really easy. It's not like we're demonstrating a lot of things. So then you basically make sure that you optimize on that. You put it on your blog, on your website. So, you don't have to start with keywords. You can always go back and add keywords to something. Just get it out there. And then what you do is you start doing things of value for your audience. So your audience are mainly principals, right? And maybe you just want to interview things. Sometimes you don't even have to do the podcast with a guest. You can just sit down and Mark, I love doing this. So like you can reach out to me and go, hey, Andrew, can I just bounce some things off of you? And I could just create dialogue. And you'll be like, hey, here's the cool thing. So we found out there's this property that shall not be named. And we looked at the perform, right? Here's the one thing, but here's one thing that actually made sure that that we knew that if we got the property, we could make the cap rate 0.5 or a point better. And you're just gonna jam like that. It's really cool because there's this guy in technology business called Ben Thompson. He has this podcast called Exponent, like the little thing, like the little number. Really good podcast. Mainly talks about terrible names for like the episode of the podcast because you have to click on it and like read the notes to see what the hell it's going to be about. That's why I didn't
Yeah.
listen to it for the longest time. And then I made the time to do that. And like going, oh yeah, I would like to learn about how Zillow only commands 4% of the residential real estate market. And it's so huge, right?
Yeah.
So interesting stuff. So like I started listening, and all he talks about is like strategy and like things and that, like what they're doing and like maybe things that are going on. And he has this other gentleman, James, and James kind of like his sounding board. And we'll push off on different things, but it's really just Ben getting his thoughts out there, and then James kind of being like, "That's interesting." Anytime you need it, I'll be your sounding board. But I'll give you one hack.
Oh, I love it.
Fridays
Okay, I'm ready.
tend to be slower for a lot of people. Your slowest, busiest day though is Monday. Nobody really transacts on Monday unless it's like a
Yeah.
deadline. Tuesdays are the like where most people are responsive. Wednesday, they're responsive. Thursday, they're responsive all throughout the day. But like towards like the end of Thursday, people start like getting tired. And then on Friday, they do a lot of work in the morning, and then they get tired, and then they disappear. Especially business owners and wealthy individuals like that,
Yeah.
So you can do two things. So one thing is on Fridays, I'm not sure what your schedule is like. You're relaxed. It's the end of the week. Block out your calendar. And all you have to do is block it out for an hour and a half. And you can block it out from like 8 o'clock in the morning to 9:30. And then you just record the podcast. And then you don't pressure yourself. You go, hey, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to talk about this one thing, or I'm going to call Andrew, or I'm going to call, Bucky or anyone else,
Yeah.
and even Linda at the broker list. I'm going to just kind of just chit chat. But I would actually, the people that I want to do business with, that I want to develop deeper relationships with, I would bring them on. And I would say, or even interview people in the, I don't know what kind of hacks you guys do in multifamily, because I never did multifamily. In fact, we're in the process of building our multifamily product on Digsy. So I'm going to reach out to you because I'm kind of under the gun.
I
Simply
will take you
because,
from zero to hero, dude.
please do.
I know everything you need.
It's being built right now, so we have a shell that we can show somebody and be like, "Hey, Mark, what are we missing?" It's not that
I'll
difficult
do
to
it.
build the way that we built the platform, but it's coming. It's gonna be really cool. We have a backlog of guess how many multifamily listings.
I'm gonna pray for millions because we have no product in Utah.
No, it's never that high. Most of these things go off that. So it's probably about like 600 assets right now.
Dude,
If I include the ones that are like 7 to like 12 months old, it would be around 1,200.
that's awesome. Yeah, you need to have that. I mean, I've done a little bit on apartments.com. Here's the problem, and this is where I was like leading towards, you must be excited moving forward, because if you could sell your property on Craigslist for the last decade, can you still sell it on Craigslist? I mean, now we're doing so many off-market deals, right? Because there's no longer like, the execution's important. It's no longer, there wasn't. So here was a great conversation I had a couple weeks ago. Surety execution has not been the issue the last 5 to 10 years. Let's just say 5 years. Because if you had 20 offers, as long as they had the money, they're going to get the debt, right? I mean, even lenders, Fannie and Freddie, were like, well, he's never bought a multifamily property. Oh, but this management company's going to be managing? No worries, So surety of execution wasn't important. Now, surety of execution is everything, because if somebody's deciding to sell in the COVID era, there's a reason. They want to capitalize for a purpose. And so the conversations and deals I'm doing right now are why I'm in the business and why I've stuck around. And you're in a position now to provide so much value to people that need a more direct marketing campaign to get in front of the right people faster, right? And that's, if I put stuff online, it's one, because I promised exposure. It's two, I'm not going to put stuff on a random website that's going to get me a bunch of residential agents calling me, right? Like that's one thing that I've talked about before in detail is, with limited time, I need to get to the top 500 people really fast, narrow it down to 16, narrow it down to 5, narrow it down to 1, and boom, we hit it. So, I mean, I think you at Digsy have a unique opportunity on the investment side as a lot more problems start building up to provide a release and access to some of those investors for sure.
But you know what? I think it works for like I don't even know if it works for like $3 million properties. I think it works for like 500,000 to maybe maybe like $2.5 million properties. The higher the price goes up, the more uncomfortable the individual is on buying something without doing research and a decision. So that's what I was saying, that the broker won't go away. Yeah, you can list your property on Craigslist and sell it, right? And then that buyer does that, and then the horror stories come that like, hey, you didn't do like the right due diligence, or maybe you bought it for, or you sold it for too low. That's a worse thing, right? Like they buy the property, next thing you know, because you have like this excess land, they built another set of X amount of apartments. Now they're, they increase their NOI by, $250,000, like, or more, like that. Those are, when the asset numbers go up, it's really hard. And I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
LegalZoom was supposed to get rid of lawyers for a lot of the things. But what's funny is when I started my company the first time, when we weren't raising money, I didn't do LegalZoom. I went to my accountant. I didn't trust, because I don't want to read it and I don't understand a lot of things. He's the expert, so I did that. It wasn't that expensive. So I paid him more than I would pay LegalZoom, but it was an important task. The more that the dollars rise, right, the more important it becomes. And the more important it becomes is like, why do privately wealthy individuals, why don't they just put their money on Robinhood? Why do they give it to Goldman Sachs? Why do people give their money to Blackstone, all these pension funds, right? Why do they do that? It's not going to go away, because like a lot of the stuff that we do as humans and as commercial real estate professionals is art. It's creativity and art. You and I, you could be looking at a building, right? You could be looking at a multifamily unit, and another broker from, let's say, Cushman could be looking at the same thing, and another broker at CBRE are looking at it. But you have one piece of information, and you know something that creatively you've worked the calculation, the ROI, and you're going to keep that quiet. You're going to buy the asset. You're going to compete with them, and you can outbid them because you know something they don't. And you've got a vision. And guess what? You're so confident about that vision because you've ran the risk analysis on paper, which is what you do, right? That you're able, do you think your client does all this shit? They're not in the market 24/7. They're in the market like once every now and then, right? Like, or maybe they're in the middle of a trade.
I get paid to do all their work for them because they have money. But you did bring up something interesting before I wanted to touch on. I have gotten listings with this sentence: you hire me so that you never question whether or not you left money on the table, right? Like, people hire me. That's what people don't understand. When you hire a good broker, an investment broker or a leasing broker, we do so much work up front that when we put out that package, our job is to decrease risk, de-risk an asset so that doesn't get priced into the acquisition, right? So anyway, I thought that was really a good point.
But the one thing is, they've done studies, and I'll try to find the reference so you can include in the show notes if you put this in. But they actually weighed motivations, right? And they said, okay, so we'll actually give you $100 for doing this. And then they said, we'll save you $5 for doing this. You want to know how many more people signed for saving $5 than making $100? It was like enormous. It was like most people wanted to save money. Most people want to avoid pain than get enjoyment out of things. Yeah. So it's really funny. So I don't think callers would ever do it, but like the best advice like I would have in my business: don't get fucked.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's not too kosher, but like really what you're doing is you're making sure that people don't get fucked.
100%. I'm an insurance policy and I'm fun, and I've done a lot, and I like working with good brokers. I love it when I get offers from specific brokers, and that's like the thing that doesn't get talked about, right? It's like, if I have 2 offers and one's from a dude that I know is just dialed, I just know that things are going to go smoother than, broker B. So when we get offers from residential agents, that's a nightmare.
That is a nightmare. I mean, unless you have to do a deal with somebody who's not like in the industry and doing that, it's like watching a monkey try to like literally like.
Yeah, it's too bad. Okay, but I want to we've already been on. I know your time's tight. I appreciate being on. I want to know, what are you most excited about over the next couple of years with Digsy and the tech space? And then we're not gonna have time, but like blockchain, tokenization, crowdfunding. I mean, if any of those things spark an idea for Digsy and where you're going, like, that to me is, those are some exciting adjustments in our world in the next 10 years. So go.
Yeah, so as far as the different technologies out there, it's actually really interesting. We look at blockchain, we look at different things, but I think these things aren't really ascending as fast as where the adoption, especially, is going to happen in the commercial real estate industry as we'd like. So those are things we pay attention to. There's actually things we do now that in the past we decided to push aside, but we brought back because we saw that acceleration. So we're always keep our eyes and ears open, because if customers, it's going to drive value for them, and it's going to help them shorten the amount of time they stay on the market and increase the number of leads they're generating, quality, then we're going to do it. What I really would like is, I'm really excited to see how we can bring the cost of 3D and virtual tours down, because statistically, those things actually generate a lot more eyeballs, generate a lot more traffic and tours. However, it's cost prohibitive. Even though like you can buy a Matterport camera and do that, like you can't really scale it out. Like it's like you buy 1 or 100 Matterport.
Do you like Matterport? Do you feel like you have success with that? Or is it you get more eyes on a broker walking through and video overlaying kind of what you're seeing?
Matterport's great. So Matterport's interactive, which is nice. Not where you can pick up a cup of coffee because it's a still image, but it actually gives you the feeling of the space. Now that's the only thing that I've seen. I've never checked out Floored or anything like that. I know they got acquired by CBRE, but it's really good because I think like you can save a lot of time and energy not driving the building, especially the principal. But it saves up, but it's still too cost prohibitive, right? Like if you look at paying a human and going that, like you can't send one guy with a camera to Detroit to do that. Like you have to deploy them everywhere. It'd be nice to see how we can bring the cost down. And I think it will take some time, but I think that's going to make the biggest difference. In residential, you see it all the time, but people don't think like, okay, they're selling a $500,000 asset, $1 million asset. The commission justifies the expense. But when you're renting, like let's say 2,000, 5,000, 15,000 feet of warehouse, industrial, or retail, and who knows in what market, it might be 50 cents a square foot or $3 a square foot. It makes it really, really difficult, especially if it's for sale. Is it $100 a square foot, or is it, $550 a square foot? Like it just doesn't. So like you tend to get those things in the high end, but the lower end's where you need the efficiency, because you don't make money in those lower. So until those things happen, you will not see brokers get wiped out of the bottom market. Right, but I'm really, really interested in seeing how that can. I think that will go down to robotics. To be honest, I think they'll might Matterport or whatever will like build like a little robot that goes in there and does something, or maybe gets deployed by drone. Who knows? I mean, I think we're probably about 7 to 10 years away from this. But that's what excites me a lot. Another thing that excites me a lot is AI and machine learning. Simply because, and it's mainly because of the neural network. There's a lot of things that we see on our platform where we know when we're doing it as a human, we're looking like, for example, we see a bunch of people looking for like senior living, and they type that in, but they start looking at like office buildings because some websites list them as office buildings. And it's really neat to be able to see kind of like the patterns aside from what they've already searched and what they typed in, but to see the implicit things and actually get to that information faster. So you can plug them in. Like, let's say, for example, they're looking for multifamily, but they're looking for multifamily in this pocket, and they've entered information as they're searching in certain things. And we see the type of properties that they click. And then all of a sudden, Mark Jensen comes in with like a property that happens to match all that criteria. And we see it explicitly because we know the location, we know the type of property, et cetera. Computer vision actually gives you the ability to kind of like disdain what kind of, if it's high grade or class B, or it'll take some time. But then you can actually connect to and reduce the amount of cost and time and energy. You make the market more liquid. Those are things that I'm really excited about. It's going to put a lot of people out of jobs, and people should be scared, but universal income has to come. There's going to be so much productivity and people spending money on the stuff that it just doesn't make. It doesn't make. I mean, we've always put ourselves out of a job. Before the refrigerator, we wiped out the entire ice companies. Right? How many horse people who traded horses did we wipe out in the 30s? Right? So this is just natural progression. If you're not changing, then it's your fault. And you have to be responsible. If you have a family, you have to make sure you protect them. And protection doesn't mean standing in the status quo. It means learn your effing skills because you have a family to feed. You know, and it's easier said than done. I don't want to be crude or that, but it's going to happen
like
with or without us.
Totally. The raw reality is if you're not changing, you're dying. If you're not innovating, you're dying. If you're not on the front lines, if you're not pushing, you know, working hard. So, I mean, one thing I've been grateful for is in 9 and 10, I was solving problems personally and otherwise. Started brokering in 04, saw a huge ramp up, a huge drop. This time I'm stable. I've got cash for years and I finally can look at the forest. And so I'm trying to be as front as we can possibly get. But that's why I've said on most of the calls I've been on about technology, it's like, try to run me out because I'm just going to pivot and shift and grow. But that's just my personality. You know, I do think there's some dinosaurs in the commercial real estate space. And I think that the t-shirt league is going to take over because we're data driven and we're efficient as shit, you know?
Yeah. What are you excited about?
I think that one of the biggest things I'm excited about, although I don't understand the legalities of it fully, that's one of my, you know, next podcast goals, maybe you have an idea on it, but there's so much friction costs in commercial real estate, right? Me, title, and everyone's an artist, and I get it. Trust me, I'm going to defend my industry to the death. However, the ability to go onto a cadre.com or, you know, go to a syndicator you have a trusted relationship with and give them money and, read a package online and understand that all the data is real. I mean, almost like a title report type thing for the investment, and be able to send $5,000 to Grant Cardone and $28,000 to this, you know, they're crowdfunding the Chrysler building in New York. I think giving the power to the people. I mean, the reason I'm successful and I exist is because I know so much about something that's really hard to learn a lot about. You know, like a friend of mine called me yesterday and sent me this deal, and I won't say what the deal is, but I knew everything about it: who owned it, how long they owned it, why they're selling it, why I wouldn't buy it, why it's overpriced, you know, why it's on the way down versus up, and all the risks and stuff. And he was like, "Holy crap, you probably just, you know, saved me 6 months of my life." It's like, I know. And that's what I think crowdfunding and I think tokenization provide. So I think the technology infiltration of the liquidity markets of commercial real estate and reducing some of those friction costs, I think those are just going to be fun. Even if it's one building, if you called and said, "Hey, Mark, I'm helping raise, you know, we're going to refinance the equity and debt on this super cool building in Long Beach, you know, that everybody knows." I'd be like, yeah, I'd throw $1,000 at that. You know, like, I just think that's going to be fun and it's going to create more value and liquidity. And there's always been such a disconnect. So like, I have a self-employment pension with Morgan Stanley, and my buddy at Morgan Stanley's a stud. Here's the conversation we have a year ago. "Hey, I want to put that SEP into my self-directed IRA because I want to invest in real estate." "Well, dude, we can just buy REITs." It's like, okay, but you just missed physical asset depreciation, you know,
you're buying a share
benefits.
You're not getting all of that. You're not getting your proportionate share of all of those tax advantages.
100%. And so there is literally a wall between wealth managers and me. I mean, on the podcast I was on the other day with Dustin Brown, which is really residential agent focused, I said, I'm a stockbroker of physical assets. And I say that quite often because that's what I am. I'm a stockbroker of these physical assets that competes with the stock market. However, there are some benefits to, you know, why you'd invest in commercial real estate. I think giving that power to the general public and educating the general public with tools and education is just, we're at the beginning of that.
I'll introduce you to my friend Jillian about I'll send you, she just got interviewed too. So like Jillian is the reason how I got connected with our investor who's on the board of Zillow. And Jillian is a CEO of a company. We started our companies she started before we did. I think she started like 2011. But then we had some of the same investors. She started a company called Realty Mogul out here. Yes. And Jillian's actually a really good friend of mine.
Oh, I would love the connection because I'm an accredited investor with them. I get their emails. I've never invested with them.
Oh, dude, she's awesome. Yeah, actually, it's so funny.
They have hit it out of the park, and it's fun. And she was definitely an early provider. Yes.
And she's actually looking for distressed multifamily deals, so that might be good. So I'll make an intro sometime in the next few days.
Cool.
Jillian's freaking cool, dude. I mean, she's amazing. She's helped us out so much.
I read an article recently about her that was epic, right? I mean, how she raised money, what she was doing, their success. I mean,
Dude, we were
assets
having
under management.
the day I met her, we were on the rooftop in Santa Monica out here. It was a Techco's Angel event, and there were some other investors there too. And we were sitting there, and she was telling me all like we're just like sitting there. I don't remember if she had a drink in her hand. I think she did, but I know I definitely had one. And we were just sitting there, and she's like telling me, "Watch out for that guy, that guy, that guy." And I'm like, "Well, you got to watch out for that guy, that guy, that guy." And then she's like, "Oh, you're in commercial
That's
real estate. You
cool.
should talk to my investor, who's on the board of Zillow." I'm like, "Oh, awesome." And then we hit it
That's
off. And then
cool.
the board of Zillow guy turned us down the first time around, which is nice because we got to grow up. And yeah, I'll definitely connect you. Jillian's fucking amazing. So
That's cool. Yeah,
all right, man.
I would love that. I'd love that. So
Yeah. I'll send you a podcast too.
Yeah, I would love it. I will do all of the above. So, and then let's stay in touch, dude. I mean, it's funny because like you forget how many friends you have until COVID hits, and you're like, man, we have a lot of friends, dude. It's been fun knowing you for so many years.
What's your Insta handle?
It's Mark Jensen CRE.
Okay, cool. So
hit me up, bro.
You know, most of mine is Andrew Bermudez, just AndrewBermudez. So if anybody wants to find.
Oh yeah, that's what you do at the end of podcasts. You say, and Andrew, how do people find you?
Yeah, so you can find me at getdigsy.com in the About Us page. You can send an email to me directly, Andrew at getdigsy.com. That's GETDIGSY.com. And I'm at Andrew Bermudez on Twitter. I'm Andrew Bermudez on LinkedIn. And I'm happy to help. I'm totally approachable. So don't feel shy. Reach out to me. If there's anything that you got of value from all the blabber I did, send me a message. I'm always, the only thing I will ever ask you is to pay it forward. So as long as you're paying it forward, I'm happy to be generous with you.
That's awesome, man. We're going to raise the next
billionaires.
What do you call it? What are we? Yeah. No, like the next generation of commercial real estate brokers.
That's going to be fun. Yeah.
We hope so. Well, cool, man. I appreciate your time very much. Look forward to the day that we can meet in person for sure. Next time I'm in Southern California, I'm going to hunt you down. So anyways.
Well, I've been wanting to go to Park City, so we'll see who makes it first.
Sounds good, dude. I appreciate it. Let's stay in touch. Talk soon.
See you, Mark.
Thank you so much, man. See ya.
Bye.